Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto. I'm broadcasting live on January 17th, 2022 at 5:44 in the morning, Monday. Yep, it's the start of the work week. Time to get up and go to work. Time to put on your work boots. Get her done. Yes, it is. It is the beginning of the work week, and no more holiday for you. Okay, it's over. It's over. You gotta get back to work. Okay, so anyway, yeah, that's what I'm telling myself. And I'm working at it. I'm working at trying to, go full-time crypto, full-time podcasting. Maybe one of these days it'll happen. But until then, I'm still going down to my daily grind and getting it done. Yes, so this is my morning show, my video blog, aka morning brain dump, and this is the time where you can sit here and have a coffee, have whatever you have in the morning, and oh man, I forgot my kombucha in the fridge. I normally have my little cayenne cleanse kombucha. I'll go get it. I'll drink it on the way down to work. It's an hour and 15-minute commute. Yeah, each way. So it's 2 hours and 30 minutes worth of driving every single day. Something's going to have to be done about that at some point here in the near future because it's getting old. But anyway, yes, where was I? So yeah, sit here and have your morning coffee. This is not meant to be like, totally brain-filled crypto technical analysis. I'm just kind of looking at stuff and learning stuff and just talking about it as I go along, and it might not even be accurate. So it's definitely not financial advice for sure. But yeah, take it for what it is. All right, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not shilling anything. I'm just doing my deal. And if I say something wrong, I guarantee you somebody will speak up and correct me, as they always do. All right. Okay, so let's go to the old CoinGecko markets and take a quick look here and see what we have. All right. I always say, like the best way to learn is to act like you know something. Then there will always be some know-it-all piping. I say, actually, So just pretend, be very assertive about something that you only know maybe 50% about. And then you'll be sure to get your answer if you aren't sure. Somebody will correct you. So, okay. As long as you're okay with being corrected, and I certainly am. I don't care. So, all right. So we have Bitcoin. Let me just refresh this page here. If you're listening on the audio, I have CoinGecko up on my page. So if you I like my audio versions better. So if you don't really care about the video and you just kind of put it on in the background, listen to me on Apple Play, on Spotify, on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Alexa, or whatever the hell you want. Yeah, man, the audio quality is much better. So I don't really ever listen to myself. Maybe I should, and just kind of like being maybe I could make some improvements somewhere, but I don't, just because I have my inner self voice that is constantly nagging at, how terrible it all is. So I just try to avoid that by just not listening to it. Okay, anyway, so Bitcoin is $42,759.02. Ethereum is $3,265.31. Binance is $482.71. Tether is a stable coin. Cardano is $1.53, up 30.2% in the past 7 days. What is Cardano showing for this? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if Cardano actually decided to come out with something. So we'll see. USDC is stable coins $1. Solana 142.90. Up 1.4% in the past 7 days. XRP up 1.5% to 76 cents. It's basically, I remember when XRP was a 25-cent stable coin for the longest time, and then before that it was like a 12 or 13-cent stable coin for the longest time. But I mean, XRP seems like such a 2019, 2020 token. It doesn't seem like it would be relevant anymore. I just don't understand why it's still in the top 8. So if you are a strong believer in XRP, please tell me why. Why are people hanging in there with XRP? There's a lot of other different solutions now, even in that type of world that XRP supposedly is supposed to be serving. would be much better options. So why is XRP still in the top 10? Terra, number 9, 81.17. Polkadot, number 10 at 26.66. Then we have Doge and Avalanche following closely behind. Dogecoin's up 12.6%, and it's because of whatever Elon Musk pronounces, and he said that Tesla would be accepting Doge. And then there's Avalanche. Avalanche is a cool other layer 1 blockchain solution at 88.99. There's some pretty cool apps being built on it. So yeah. And Polygon is the layer 2 solution, $2.35, up 11.4%. And then Shiba Inu, so Polygon took over Shiba Inu and it bumped it down, Shiba Inu down to 14, which I'm okay with. All right. And then we had Near Protocol making some moves. I need to sit here and do a video and talk about Near Protocol and see what the deal is, yo, with Near. I have no idea. I just know that it's another blockchain I gotta look into, you know, like Cosmos, like Phantom, like Avalanche, you know. You gotta, man, they're just popping up out of nowhere, you know, like popcorn, boom, and you're just like, oh shoot, man, I thought I was ahead. I thought I was starting to actually get my head wrapped around all this stuff, and then here comes something new I gotta figure out, damn it. Ah, man, you know, just when I start to feel smart in the space, I get knocked down and feel stupid again. So, yep. Man. Okay. All right. Here we go. So, anyway, I've been seeing some other type of words being thrown around a lot lately, and it's called quadratic funding and quadratic voting. Quadratic, you know that word from algebra and in middle school and in high school. You know, the old quadratic formula, the one that you thought you would never be using. Apparently, farmers use the quadratic formula. You know, they use it. Apparently, it's for farmers, and so they don't have to, like, if not all land masses and farm plots are going to be exactly square or rectangular, you know, so, but they have to figure out what type of yield they're going to get from their crops. And, you know, we all need to know this. so we all had to learn the quadratic formula in school, which is x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yep, that is the quadratic formula, and that is probably the only thing I remember from I think it was like pre-algebra that I learned that. We had a class called pre-algebra, not quite algebra. It seemed algebraic enough to me, but you know, x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And went along with Pop Goes the Weasel, and I know the quadratic formula because of that. So, however, I thought that I had laid algebra to the grave. I did have like a little resurgence whenever I was about 21 years old. Suddenly algebra just like clicked in my head. You know, I was terrible at math all through, you know, school and, you know, high school. And then I dropped out of college like about 4 times. I went to, let's see, so I went to, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I went to 4 different community colleges before I actually made my way into a 4-year university that would take me. And I think in my SATs in high school, I think I scored like it was like, oh, it was terrible. It was like maybe like a 500 or 4 something. It was a really, really impossibly low score. But, I mean, that's because I was, well, I did take LSD the night before. So that would probably help that low score. So I didn't sleep the night before. But yeah, so needless to say, I applied to some of the easiest colleges to get into around the area, and nobody would take me. So I ended up going to 4 different community colleges. And then eventually I had kind of gotten my life together enough to where I had gotten into a 4-year university in Houston, and I spent the next, you know, 3 years going to that university, and then that's when I graduated and moved to New York City and went to graduate school and all that stuff, and became the huge success I am today. All right, yeah, life comes in waves, right? Okay, so back to the quadratic formula. So I've been hearing this term quadratic funding kind of being thrown around. All right, and let's see here. What's up? How you doing? Good morning. Yeah, sorry, I'm sitting here preaching. So yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So let's go back to quadratic voting. All right. So what is quadratic voting? Look at all these chairs here. This is a place where a bunch of suits go and they sit there and they listen to somebody state their case, and everybody's speaking on behalf of all the other people in the community and all that stuff, right? And they're the ones that were voted in to have the privilege to vote on your behalf and vote for you. All right. So quadratic voting is a method of collective decision making in which a participant votes not just for or against an issue, but also expresses how strongly they feel about it. They can help to protect the interests of small groups of voters that care deeply about particular issues. Quadratic voting can be used in democratic institutions, in corporate governance, and blockchain-enabled collective decision-making. All right. Why quadratic? Yeah, that word. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In quadratic voting, every participant is given the number of credits that can be used to vote for an issue. However, the cost of casting more than one vote for an issue is quadratic, not linear. So the marginal cost of each additional vote is far higher than of the previous vote. Here is quadratic voting formula. Cost of the voter and number of voters times 2. All right. What was I gonna say? Oh, DAOs. Like for instance, a lot of people have a problem with one token, one vote. And the reason, the resurgence, a lot of people are suddenly not, because I come from a generation that doesn't give a damn. We're apathetic. Gen X, dude. Like we're one of the first generations that realized that our vote don't mean crap. That Republicans and Democrats don't exist. That they're all two wings of the same evil bird flying around trying to crap on everybody. So, we're just told that voting sucks, and so we lost interest in voting and what it means and everything like that. Yeah, man. That's just basically the reality of it. But now crypto is coming around and reviving a lot of this interest in myself and in a lot of other people, about like economics and programming and game theory and finance and things like that. Finance, dude, seriously, who gives a damn about finance? But I do now, so, who gave a damn about voting? I suddenly give a damn about voting when it's put in the context of my contribution to a DAO that I've joined, where I can suddenly feel like I'm a part of something again. So now I want to know exactly how does this work? So in quadratic voting, so one token, one vote doesn't exactly always work, right? All right. So, and then there's also, people that have a lot of tokens, and then they can vote and just completely take over the system because they happen to be a whale. And if you don't know what a whale is a person that owns a huge, large swath of tokens or stock in a company or something like that. And whenever they decide that they want to make a move, the entire body of water in which they are sitting in is completely displaced. You might have seen that in this explosion in Tonga, and people were screaming tsunami. I think whatever. Anyway, I'm off track. Okay, so quadratic voting. Each participant is given a number of credits that can be used to vote for an issue. However, the casting of one vote for an issue is quadratic, not linear. So imagine a vote generally costs $1 to put towards an issue. You have $100 of voting credits. You want to cast your vote toward protecting endangered species. Casting one vote will cost you $1. However, casting 2 votes for the same issue will cost you $4. Casting 3 votes for the same issue will cost you $9. And casting 10 votes for the same issue will cost you your entire $100 worth of credits. So, while you are increasing the chances of victory for your issue with each additional vote, the quadratic nature of the funding of the voting ensures that only those who care deeply about issues will cast additional votes for them. So you get these politicians that come in, and they're being bought out by all these lobbyists and stuff like that, and the lobbyists are like, and so whatever that's supposed to mean. But you know what I'm saying? Like, people are shoving money, and then power structures are coming in trying to buy up votes and everything like that. Well, it becomes exponentially more difficult for these people, these large entities, to come in and buy up these votes. If the votes get increasingly more expensive, each additional vote. This was used in Colorado. After Democrats won Colorado governorship of both of the state's houses in 2018, they used quadratic voting to decide which appropriations bills to fund first. Since legislators were likely to sponsor their own bills and vote for them, the Democratic caucus sought a method to gauge which bills had everyone's support. Initially, the Colorado Democrats assigned 15 vote tokens for each legislator to use on their preferred 15 bills. After this didn't work very well, they talked to Microsoft economist Glenn Weil, who explained how quadratic voting could propose a solution. Weil saw quadratic voting as a solution to the tyranny of the majority issue. Regular voting assumes that everyone cares for an issue equally, which is rarely the case. The reality is that some legislators do not care about certain issues, care moderately about others, and care deeply about a few. That's pretty much kind of true, I never really thought about this stuff. Usually people named like Christoph and Carl with a K and stuff like that are the people that sit around and think about this stuff, not like John Miller, But so anyway, instead each legislator was given 100 tokens. If a legislator casts one vote each for several issues, it would cost them 1 token each. However, the legislator could cast more than one vote for an issue at the following cost in tokens. So right here is this little table, number of votes cast per issue in column A, and then cost of tokens in column B. So you see here 1 vote, and it costs 1 token. 2 votes cost 4 tokens, 3 votes 9 tokens, 4 votes 16 tokens, etc., etc., etc. All right. So Colorado's experiment with quadratic voting was largely successful. So how does quadratic voting differ from traditional voting systems? First past the post. All right, this is the old way. In the first past the post system used in most democracies, a candidate can win without getting the votes of a majority of people. Let's say candidate A gets 35% of the votes, candidate B gets 30%, candidate C gets 24%, and candidate D gets 11%. A wins, but we know that the majority of people voted for someone other than A. So, while old Hanky Spanky might be walking down the hallway of the marble floor, looking all snazzy in his suit, at the back of his mind, he knows that 75% of the people didn't vote for him. And they're all just looking at him. So proportional voting. To address this, some jurisdictions have adopted proportional voting systems. Here, if 35% of the electorate votes for a given party, then 35% of the seats in the legislature given to that party, and so on. Though these systems can be seen as evolved version of the past and the post system, they do not work when a binary decision has to be made. A yes or no is a binary decision. So, so if 35% of the electoral votes for a given party, then 35% of the seats of the percent of seats in the legislature given to that party. And all right, okay. And then there's ranked choice voting. In ranked choice voting, which is used by several jurisdictions in California, each voter ranks their favorite candidates. The candidate with the lowest number of votes is eliminated in each round, and that candidate's votes are redistributed to the candidates next, and each voter's preference order ahead of the next round. Through ranked choice voting, though ranked choice voting has its strength, it is a complex and time-consuming process. Yeah, it sounds complex and time-consuming. I can't understand it. All right, and then quadratic voting is the one here. Though quadratic voting is also complex, it arguably better protects the interests of small groups of voters that care deeply about particular issues. By increasing the cost of each additional vote, it disincentivizes voters that don't care about issues from casting several votes for them. It also allows voters to show the intensity of their support for a given issue by casting several votes for it at the expense of their ability to vote on other issues. So, some people say, well, then they're just going to sit there and just buy up all these votes, and so then somebody with, but what that does is, if somebody is only given a budget, of 100 voting tokens, and they spend, they want to use 10 votes, but they're going to end up using all 100 of their tokens on that, and they won't have any more tokens to vote on anything else, so all their power is completely concentrated into one issue. So yeah, that does not prevent them from going and ruling the entire menu of stuff to vote about, because then suddenly they restrict their influence. Yes, they might have a whole lot of influence in one particular issue, but then every other issue they don't get to say jack squat about. Conclusion: modern democracies have generally used one person, one vote in their elections and legislative processes. Corporations have often adopted more sophisticated voting mechanisms. For example, allowing a shareholder to designate someone else to vote on their behalf, like delegating votes. That's another thing in proof of stake type of systems and stuff like that. The old delegated voting mechanism and stuff like that, that's used, kind of delegated proof of stake as well. It's used quite widely in a lot of different blockchains. So complicated but arguably more democratic voting systems such as proportional voting and ranked choice voting have not found widespread acceptance due to their complexity. No crap. Now that blockchain-enabled collective decision-making allows voters to be tracked in a transparent public way, more complicated voting systems can be adopted by allowing voters to express not just their preferences, but also the intensity of their preferences. Quadratic voting protects the interests of small groups of voters that care deeply about certain issues. Cool. All right, so now that we have that in mind, I have a few more minutes to sit here and talk about what quadratic funding is, because I've been sitting here hearing about Gitcoin grants and stuff like that, and seeing a lot of stuff like that thrown around about Gitcoin grants, because apparently it's very popular to talk about in the DAO world and in the crypto world about Gitcoin grants and what Gitcoin grants is doing. Giveth.io and Rainbow Rolls that you've heard me talk about are being funded in part by Gitcoin grants. And basically what Gitcoin grants is, it's an organization that is allowing like open source software development and stuff like that to be treated as a public good and to be funded as a public good and stuff like that, and allowing projects to be funded. So Gitcoin grants is it's like a funding organization that's helping to channel money towards certain projects, and they're using what is called quadratic funding. And okay, now I know what quadratic voting is, right? It allows more intensity to be used in voting, rather than just one person, one vote type of thing, or $1 one vote, or whatever. Okay, so anyway, Gitcoin, build and fund the open web together, connect with the community, developing digital public goods, creating financial freedom, and defining the future of the open web. Okay, so Gitcoin views open source software development as a public good, as it should be, man, because a lot of amazing software developers are out there. And I didn't know this, man. I didn't grow up in the software world. I'm not a programmer. I don't do, okay. So a lot of people like me don't even realize this entire world exists. We just pop on our computer, play with Windows, and maybe look up some smutty material, and then we're done for the day. And we don't necessarily think about a lot of the stuff that goes on behind a lot of these programs, and a lot of the people that put in their tireless work to build a lot of this stuff before it gets taken over and packaged and sold in things like Microsoft, which is a problem a lot of people had when Microsoft came around, because a lot of that stuff was open source and it was made as a hobby, and as a public good by people who were passionate about this stuff. And then, these software companies came and packaged it up and they sold it and they made billions of dollars. So anyway, in order to perpetuate and to help these software developers continue to make the stuff, this open source software for everybody to freely use and to build upon and to progress society, they've come up with a coin, the Gitcoin, and it's a cryptocurrency in which these people can earn some money for what they're doing, as they should. Sorry, hold on, let me take a sip of my morning drink. Okay, and so there's a coin associated with it, and then there's money they're using to fund types of public goods projects. One is Rainbow Rolls, the NFT project that was helping to erase medical debt for people. Another is Giveth.io, which is a donation platform for people to be able to donate in a transparent fashion on the blockchain. And I've talked about both of those. Even with the Taoists, I interviewed, Lauren Luce and Griff Green, who are in charge of that project. Anyway, all these people were recipients of the Gitcoin Grants. And the Gitcoin Grants is on like they just finished round 12. They're getting ready to do round 13, in which they will be using quadratic funding systems in order to fund projects. So here's Gitcoin, build and fund the open future. All right, so earn while building open source public goods projects that matter. Learn from industry leaders and build meaningful relationships. Connect, team up with a community of builders to take on exciting open source projects and fund open source projects, building the future of the open web. Why build Web3? The internet has unlocked unprecedented opportunities for collaboration and creation. Now Web3 technology like open source protocols and decentralized blockchains give us the ability to take that co-creation to a new scale. The Gitcoin community uses this technology to fund and build digital public goods projects that serve everyone and solve our most immediate problems. So public goods are things like, clean air, clean ocean, roads are public goods. When you have a smooth road, that's a public good. Working stoplights, that's public good. I think hospitals should be public goods, so yeah. And open source software is a public good. Software is a public good. I mean, everybody uses the internet. It should be a public good. So open source code means open economies. Build resilient projects, better coordination, and positive sum outcomes. Empowering, growing networks with aligned incentives towards the well-being of each participant in the system as a whole. And collaborative, through distributed funding and organizations, we build toward our shared goals. Okay, so earn from projects that matter. So these developers, they get to get in with the Gitcoin, so they get to work on open bounties, take part in hackathons sponsored by some of the most innovative Web3 organizations, or start the next great public works project. Earn for the public good and contribute to solving some of humanity's most pressing coordination problems. Builders have earned over $6.53 million through Gitcoin. Join us. So yeah, man, like DAOs, for instance, they're automating human coordination, through code, and that's something that has come about from all this stuff. So learn to navigate and build Web3. Want to check out new protocols, tools, and teams? Level up and build your skills through regularly scheduled sponsored hackathons. Participate in workshops or roundtable discussions hosted by influential Web3 experts, or learn alongside your talented peers in the Kernel Fellowship Program. Get good with Gitcoin and connect with like-minded builders. Gitcoin is the very center of Web3 with a vibrant and growing community of open source builders. Find peers who will complement your skill set and team up to take on bounties and hackathons, or join a cohort of Web3's rising stars in the 8-week Kernel Fellowship Program. Build lasting relationships through Gitcoin. And then, build the open web and shape its future. Give back and become a true leader of the open web. Not the closed web, not the Bill Gates web, or not the Zuckerberg web, the open web. So choose the projects and technology you believe are the most vital and contribute to them directly using quarterly Gitcoin Grants rounds. And we just finished Gitcoin Grant round 12. Now we're doing 13. Let's fund the future together, build the world we want to see. All right, so let's go over here to this article. WTF is QF? Quadratic funding is the mathematically optimally way to fund public goods in a democratic community. So here's a little 60-second video. Actually, it's 1 minute and 39 seconds with the intro. I timed it. Actually, I didn't time it. I saw the little watch on it, but we'll watch it real quick. All right. So it's very informative. and it helps you understand. And it's got that whole 1980s after school vibe on there. So after school special vibe.
Quadratic funding is the mathematically optimal way to fund an ecosystem in a democratic way. The secret behind quadratic funding is the math, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. This is how it works. QF is basically a crowdfunding campaign wherein you match contributions from everyday citizens with a pool raised from bigger donors. The neat thing about quadratic funding is how it optimizes around the grants funded by the crowdfunding campaign. Here's an example. If you have 4 grants in a $1,000 matching round, and Grant A raises $10 from 10 different contributors, and Grant B raises $10 from 1 contributor, Grant A will get way more of the matching funds because it's supported by a broader swath of the community. During the quadratic funding round, a donation of $10 can be matched with $75, and a $100 donation can be matched with $240 because of the QF formula. Because the matching multiples are so promising for the best projects, quadratic funding has gotten a lot of traction. The Ethereum community has raised over $4 million from quadratic funding campaigns contributed to by 500 people. Quadratic funding powers a mesh network of small donors who are supporting the very best projects in the Ethereum space. To learn more about how quadratic funding could power your ecosystem's growth, check out WTFisQF.com.
All right, so that's kind of quadratic funding. It's kind of, I'm sitting here rambling a lot, but you kind of getting where I'm going here. So quadratic voting started off as, whenever you have 100 voting tokens, right? And then 1 voting token will give you 1 vote, and then 2 votes will cost you 4 voting tokens. 3 votes will cost you 9 voting tokens, and so on. So the more votes you use, the more expensive it gets. Well, here, basically, the way people fundraise a lot of times is organizations like to match. So if you put in $5, we'll match you 100%. $5, that makes a $10 contribution. So your $5 turns to $10. And then, so yeah, that's how a lot of that works. But in order to make things a little more democratic, so for instance, I could come in there and be like, I'm gonna throw in $100, just me, and then so the organization would come in and they would match me $100. Let me think about this. See, I suck at explaining this stuff. So let's go down here to this table. All right. So, for instance, we have a bunch of people, matching 1. All right. So 1. We have a bunch of contributors over here, and look at that. There's a lot of money going into that, and they're all just doing times 1. Right there. And so the match amount is $746. The funded amount is $10. Okay. Let's say one person comes in here and does a 10x. All right. So the match amount is $71.43. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, 10 different people here. So the amount of people, the amount of different people that are contributing increases the match amount, right? So a bunch of little people can make a big difference versus one big whale coming in here and matching a lot and throwing and contributing a lot, but then the match amount will be a lot less. See, it's only 71.43 here versus up here where you have 10 different people matching, putting in, and then the match amount is $714.29. So yeah, it assures that a lot of small people will be able to have their voice heard, and then the match will be greater, and it'll be more inclined towards a lot of smaller individuals who are contributing, helping their contributions be a little more democratic and stuff like that. I hope I explained that well enough. I mean, at least I'm hoping the video explained it well enough for you. So let's go over here to, and Vitalik Buterin wrote like an entire 20 or 31 page paper on it. I do intend actually to read this paper. I read like the first 3 pages of it, and yeah. So let's see here. What is quadratic funding? A matching pool is raised, and then a crowdfund campaign is matched according to the quadratic funding algorithm. Number of contributors matters more than the amount funded. This pushes power to the edges, away from whales and other central power brokers, and this creates more democracy and public goods funding decisions. So yeah, man, there are people that thankfully sit around and think about this stuff. Um, if we just kind of just take stuff like this for granted and we just assume that the voting systems are out there and that they're fair and that it was all made for our own benefit, then we're gonna miss out. So you got to pay attention to this crap. Yeah, here's another thing here. Quadratic funding is a more democratic and scalable form of matching funding for public goods, i.e., any projects valuable to large groups of people and accessible to the general public. Matching funding is a model of funding public goods where a fund from governments or philanthropic institutions matches individual contributions to a project. Quadratic funding optimizes matching funds by prioritizing projects based on the number of people who contributed. This way, the funds meant to benefit the public go towards projects that really benefit a broad public, instead of things that have only a few wealthy backers. So big old Richie Rich can't come in there and be like, well, I'm going to support this project and I'm going to be the one that calls the shots, because he's going to have, XYZ Corporation come in there and match his $10 million. Well, that might not be the case, because then, there might be, 500 million people coming in and throwing in their own funds, and then their funds get matched, and it gets matched. They might come up with $10 million as well, but the funds are going to be matched in a highly more significant way than big old Richie Rich over here. So in quadratic funding, total funding for a proposal is the square root of each contribution to it summed up, then squared. So, okay, in quadratic funding, total funding for a proposal is the square root of each contribution to it, summed up, then squared. Okay, quadratic funding strongly encourages people to make contributions, no matter how small, and ensures a democratic allocation of funds meant to benefit the public. Strongly encourages people to make contributions, no matter how small, okay, and ensures a democratic allocation of funds meant to benefit the public. Okay, all right. So a bunch of little people get more matching funds than one big person contributing. Not saying that the big person contributing is a bad person, though. I'm not dogging on rich people and all that stuff. So sorry if I'm trampling on your rich person rights. Or tarnishing your reputation. So the Defiant wrote a little something about Gitcoin quadratic funding, and I'll read this real quickly before I get off here. Okay, I've been rambling on for a while. I need to get out, and I need to get out the door. Yeah, seriously. But I did want to read this really quick, see if I can get it to pull up on the screen. The Defiant's a very reputable DeFi news outlet. So if you are interested in decentralized finance news, the Defiant is a great source for you to learn and get some of the latest news on. And I can't seem to get this page to pull up. So you know what? I'm just going to let it go. I've already talked enough about all this stuff and completely destroyed the subject. So you guys have a good day today. I will talk to you tomorrow, and maybe I can jump back on some of this stuff. And man, it popped up here. Okay, so Gitcoin, an Ethereum Foundation supported platform for public goods funding, has revealed it's working on its new offering designed to help protocols incentivize ecosystem development called Aqueduct. The key, enabling projects to employ automatic quadratic funding rounds, which uses a novel voting mechanism intended to produce outcomes that equitably balance the interests of a wide variety of stakeholders. The move has triggered fresh debate about the utility and design of quadratic funding. Aqueduct incentivizes ecosystem development for your project with a single line of Solidity and unbundles the code, unbundles the work of protocol creation from the work of ecosystem support. He said no human intervention is required to use the protocol. All right, so some crypto commentators are praising the Aqueduct devs for their support. Others believe economic signals are not the only information that should be considered when determining how funding should be allocated across the crypto ecosystem. Venture advisor Christoph Lommers criticized quadratic voting for assuming that monetary contributions are the sole mechanism used to determine the value of a project. The real question is whether a financial contribution is the ideal type of signal you want in this case, Lommers tweeted. Isn't there a mechanism to take into account the relative activity you play in the protocol without much weight to your financial means? If person X spends each night in the Discord and is a true believer in the community, yeah, true. Yeah, what about that person that's every single day, you know? Yeah, kind of just grinding it through the Discord every single day and making sure that everything's going according to the way it should, rather than just some money guy coming in there and being, hey, how you doing? All right, yeah. You know, the person that's in there in the Discord, organizing the Discord, making sure everything is good, banning scammers and all that type of stuff. You know, shouldn't their vote have some weight besides just the finance people? So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that. All right, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I will talk to you guys later. And who knows what we'll be talking about tomorrow. All right, later.
Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.